Hello and welcome to the Liquidity Event. We are your host, Shane Mason.
And I'm AJ Ayers.
That's right, baby. She's back in the seat. She's back from Japón. And she's ready to dissect the news with you, dear listener. This is episode 95 of the Liquidity Event. Liquidity Event.
You learned to speak Japanese? Congrats.
Hi. And this is being recorded on May 24th. And we'll be debuting on May 26th. In this week's episode, we will be discussing an IPO. Hey, finally, a little something in the liquidity markets, as well as how to get a 1% mortgage. You only got to put 1% down to get a mortgage from Rocket Mortgage. We got a bunch of boomers moving to Europe, and finally, some tax updates for you in the state and local income tax space. AJ, how the hell have you been?
Oh, I've been great. Thanks for holding down the fort for me while I was gone. I know you had an interesting cast of characters through here. I thought all of your co-hosts did a great job, and you did a great job, as you always do. But I am happy to be back in the States, happy to be back on the Liquidity Event. Life is good.
Give us an update. Where have you been?
Where have you been? I went to Japan for 2 weeks. I was totally OOO, which was awesome. Saw the whole country, was way up in the north in Hokkaido, all the way down to the south in Matsuyama. Lots of quiet reflection and a lot of raw seafood. 10 out of 10 for me. Then I went to San Diego for a financial planning conference, which was lovely. Shout out to NAPFA. And then I spent some time with my business partner in Mexico City last week. And you were there too. It was great.
I was there. We were there. Yeah, we ate like kings for 4 or 5 days. And then I think you were on a flight during that Wednesday, so we didn't record that day. Cody filled in. Yeah, we had a great time while you were gone. Happy to have you back. Thank you to John and Cody for killing it while they were out. What else is going on with you? Anything different? Are you reading anything? I see you're back in Brooklyn. What's up?
I'm back in Brooklyn. It's hard for me to concentrate because I'm seeing my favorite band of the moment and my favorite band from 8th grade tonight together in Brooklyn. I'm walking to Barclays Center to see Turnstile open for Blink-182, and life honestly could not be better. I'm very much looking forward to that.
Right.
And I know you could care less.
Yeah.
You hate pop punk, right?
I don't hate it. I just don't care. It's just like,
yeah, it's all good.
It's just so on the sleeve. Like, it's just basic to me, but that's cool. I don't hate it. Good for you.
Wait, I want to plug my my travel hacking webinar, which is happening next week on May 31st at 5 p.m. We'll have a link in the show notes to register. I'm going to talk about all the things we've learned over the past 5 years about what works with credit card hacking, how not to make yourself crazy, and how to actually travel for free. Always use Delta. That's our vibe. What's going on with you, man?
Yeah. I feel like I haven't learned anything about travel hacking. Actually, every time I travel, something goes wrong. I just got back from Puerto Escondido this morning, and I don't know. I just feel like you never get it right. You never really stick the landing. You don't get the perfect hotel, or you leave something. But that's my thing. I always lose something every time I go. Like, why did I bring my favorite fucking hat to the beach? Like, now
sounds
I have
like
to
you need to
replace
attend my webinar. I can't save your hat, but I can save you $500 on hotels.
Right. Yeah. I'm not a hotel points person still to this day, funny enough, but no, I'm sure that webinar is going to be great. I need to figure out how to use my points as well. I think I've got like $25,000 in points for any single ladies out there listening. Speaking of single people, looks like Robinhood now allows you to trade 24 hours a day. I just hopping right into the articles here. Glad to have you back, AJ.
Let's go for it. Yeah,
let's do it. Okay, cool. So episode 95, breaking news. Apparently Robinhood is opening up trading windows so that if you wanted to, you can now trade stocks with other psychos that are trading after the market is closed. Robinhood now allows for 24-hour stock trading. Is this the beginning of the end, AJ? Is this?
Yes. It's the decline of. Yeah, I'm excited for the decline of the male race because this is going to lead to early death by stress and
excited for the decline
premature
of the male
heart
race.
attacks.
What other races are there out there?
The age of men is over. To quote one of my favorite orcs.
The age of orcs. What's his name again?
Or Orank, or
he doesn't. He's not in the book, so it's like it's a tough one.
He's the one who looks like Weinstein, right? That's the one I'm thinking of.
Intentionally looks like
wine.
Weinstein. Yeah. So what is your take on the 24-hour trading window for Robinhood investors?
I don't think it's a good idea. I think markets already have trading windows for a reason, and that we kind of need to give the market a little bit of a rest. Crypto trades 24 hours a day, and we've kind of seen how volatile that can be. So I don't think this is a great idea to give, Robinhood's customer base, as we know, is typically younger men, and to give them more reason to be stressful. And as we've seen, like touching your portfolio more and making trades often leads to diminished returns. So I don't think this is a good idea. I'm anti this. What about you?
I think if that you are a professional enough trader to actually know what the hell you're doing, you're not using Robinhood. Is my take on this.
Yeah.
As we all know, the more screens you have to trade with, the better a trader you are. So trading from your iPhone is, we all see the studies on that.
24?
Well, I'm not a trader. I'm not a trader. So now that I've finished trading, I'm just down to my 2 screens for...
Wait, speaking of breaking news, speaking of screens and breaking news, this didn't make it in, but I got an Instagram, I don't know if it was an ad or an advertorial or whatever yesterday for basically like a Minority Report style virtual monitor system. So you could actually have your like 17 screens in virtual reality with some dorky looking glasses, which is great
reality.
for
augmented reality.
Thank you. The Minority Report, like Tom Cruise moving the screens around, like that future is close, it seems. I'm super down with that because we both travel a ton, and I bring my little travel monitor, which isn't that great and is pretty bulky when you're trying to do carry on only, which always carry on only. Anyway, would love to see. I would pay a lot of money for a augmented reality, multiple screen glass to laptop situation.
Yeah, strap me in, baby. I'm ready for a Philip K. Dick style future where which Philip K. Dick would you want to live in? I
haven't gone deep. I've only done Hitchhikers. That's the only.
What is Hitchhiker? Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy? Yeah.
No, Philip K. Dick. Scanner Darkly.
Right, didn't he write Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
No, that's a different. Oh, that's
my bad.
I forget his name. All right, we'll have to circle back on that one for
right.
next week's episode. I won't call you out for that. I think that guy only wrote Hitchhiker's Guide, but he wrote all those books and then killed it. Philip K. Dick was Scanner Darkly, Blade Runner, essentially.
Douglas Adams. Yeah. Right.
If you had an augmented reality headset in front of you, you could have quickly Googled that off to the side with just your eyes. Philip K. Dick also wrote Minority Report, right? Did he?
I don't know. I think we might need to roll this back.
I think we might want to go to the next article here before we display any more lackiness. This is a bit of a left turn. I'm down to discuss this article. Not sure where this came from, but Ryuichi Sakamoto's management has shared the late musician's last playlist, which he had prepared for his own funeral before his death. I guess there's an estate planning angle in here from Pitchfork around choosing your own playlist for your own funeral. What are your thoughts?
I put this in here. Yeah. Sakamoto, like Japanese just legend, who, I don't know, when he died, he was very intentional and thoughtful about his death and kind of the soundtrack to it. And I was just thinking about my own death and remembered that I actually put my funeral wishes in my will. So my will actually states that when I die, I will be cremated and that a particular song will be played at my funeral. Those were my last wishes. And I was just curious if you've thought about that at all.
Yeah, I'm pulling up my funeral playlist here. Let's see. It's got 3 songs on it. Paper Thin Walls by Modest Mouse, Rollin' with the Flow, Charlie Rich, Clean Elvis by Dan Reeder. I figured I'd have some more time to build this out, but every once in a while, yes,
well,
I do.
Well, it's memorialized here on the Liquidity.
I do add something, yes, in case it gets deleted
even
when
if
I get deleted.
Your will is not notarized.
But no, yeah, I started thinking about this when I created my dad's playlist, which was interesting which was 10 years ago after he died. I put together, and I have the CD and all that fun stuff. Him and I had like a musical relationship. He introduced me to Marshall Tucker, Pink Floyd, etc. Like everything when I was 15 that got me started. So we had a very musical relationship, and I put together his playlist just based on my relationship with him and like knowing what he liked. But he didn't have any wishes. He didn't have like a Spotify most highly played, which I think is even dangerous because I doubt people's most highly played songs are the ones that they want played at their funeral. Like mine would be a lot of Future and like 3-6 Mafia. And I know yours would be...
It's like Led Zeppelin, Taylor Swift, and then...
Would it be Taylor? I feel like it would be Conor Oberst or some bullshit like that. It would be very embarrassing.
Ooh. It's not embarrassing. There's nothing wrong with emo.
Yes, it is.
Emo is not embarrassing. It's thoughtful. Anyway, speaking of thoughtful, the IRS tests a free e-filing system that could compete with tax prep giants. I love the Washington Post article. Basically, there's been a quote unquote free file program. So if you're just filing your federal return, you can sort of file for free. It's kind of buried. ProPublica's written great pieces about how it's not actually free and it's hard to find. But it seems like we're making a step forward to actually having a true free file system. I think this is great. It's the perfect, look, the private sector has been trying to solve the tax problem with more money than the IRS has for the past 15 years. So they've got the tech. So hopefully the IRS can get it together with their new budget to use and explore the market to see what is the best UX and UI design for the taxpayer to actually get their taxes paid. Thoughts?
Yeah. This has been a problem for like 10, 15 years. For the history on what's going on here, the IRS doesn't have any money or didn't have any money for a super long time. So in an effort to create a system to allow people to file their complicated taxes for cheap, we went into a private-public partnership with H&R Block and Intuit, and they fucked it up and steered people towards their paid platforms for years. And there was a lawsuit that we discussed on, 2 or 3 episodes ago that they've lost, and they now owe a couple $100 million to citizens. And finally, the IRS has money now, and they're rolling out their own version of it. So yeah, this is the private-public partnership that we deserve, I think, as a country. Defunding the IRS leads to class action lawsuits and abuses by big tax. And big accounting, Intuit, et cetera. And let's finally turn this corner and make it a lot easier for people to actually file their taxes without Intuit pushing us towards some poor people towards a platform that they have to pay for unnecessarily. Like let's finally in 2023 have some tech run by the government that works. Yeah.
I was trying to think of like tech by the government that works. I don't know, like a lot of the border, like at the airports, a lot of the
I was just thinking that,
biometric scanners, that's starting to work. Global entry works. You get off the plane,
dude.
You roll up, it scans your eyes, and you're through. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, that just happened to me too.
Yeah,
because I've bitched about this with you for like a year, where my global entry expired during COVID, and then it took a year to refresh. That's a bad example of government working. But then it finally worked, and it came back, and like you don't even have to fill anything out anymore. They just scan your eyes and you like move along. Yeah, that's freaky.
It's pretty freaky.
Are you going to talk about that during your travel hacking webinar?
I am. I am indeed. Yeah, the
I see you adding it to the slides off to the side.
Google. Google, add my slides.
Mm-hmm.
I am. I'm going to talk about the programs that are worth it and the programs that are not. Most of them are worth it. Spoiler alert.
Give me a program that's not worth it. Live on the podcast.
Ooh. I was just thinking about this. I think I'm over Priority Pass. I think Priority Pass is not worth it if you don't have a credit card that already has it.
Disagree. Have me on your webinar.
Okay.
It's saved my ass in like some corners of the world that don't. The lounges
Fair
are
enough.
like, yeah.
Fair enough. Well, the webinar is going to have this whole matrix about like how much you travel versus how much you should spend on a credit card. So it's not just going to be like I feel like the problem with travel hacking, not to derail everything, is like travel hacking is like, do these 100 things and you'll save all this money. It's like, well, yeah, the first thing we need to know is how much money you're spending on your credit card each year. And that determines what kind of travel rewards credit card and what kind you need. If you're traveling twice a year, don't spend $500 for lounge access. That's not worth it. Well, just maybe, might be, depending on how long you're stuck in the lounge.
It depends, yes, for sure.
Anyways, we could do a whole podcast on travel, of what we learned in the past year in travel tech. Maybe we'll do that when we're at a conference one of these times.
Speaking of international travel,
the segues are pretty good today, I would say.
LeeFang.com reports that big tech has resumed hiring foreign workers just weeks after their big layoffs. Apparently, H-1B visas, which we've talked about extensively here on the podcast, the applications by big tech companies ticked up despite laying off double-digit percentages of their workforce. And all this talk about not needing or having too much capacity is not reflected in the applications to bring in overseas workers. AJ, your thoughts?
I don't know. I think this was a little overblown. Like you have like the data. You lay off 12,000 workers. Like we don't know how many visa applications are actually filed. And the New York Post did a little bit of a deeper dive and actually talked to Google. And Google's statement was these jobs are not replacing the roles impacted by our workforce reduction, or a lot of these are just renewals for skilled workers that we already have. So this feels a little bit like crying wolf to me. Yeah, a little bit like drawing conclusions based on some nice data points. But yeah, I mean, they made some decisions about cuts that need to be made based on their P&L, and then they might realize like, oh shit, actually we need some more skilled engineers, and these people are going to be cheaper. So I don't know. I could see it both ways.
Yeah, I mean, I would love for the H-1B program, which is I think very successful, to just be doubled or tripled. Honestly, like I think we all need. I think the roadblock or the log jam for most tech moving forward is in the engineering department. And there is worldwide so many brains that we could drain by bringing them over here to the United States, according to this program. And I think it would help a lot, not only with, unemployment, we have unemployment, high inflation, and the lack of skilled workers here in the United States. I guess we have very low unemployment, actually. So it's kind of, I'm looking at this from the perspective of the companies actually having very low unemployment means it's very expensive to hire. So it would help keeping expenses of corporate America down by adding more engineers. Help with the logjam.
Does this lead to job creation? Like if you hire more skilled workers to develop better tech, like does that create more unskilled jobs? Trickle down brain drain.
I guess these tech companies are trickle down brain drain. I guess these tech companies are, they've created AI, which people think is going to delete jobs. But as we know, technology usually just creates new types of jobs. So exactly. I think that this would accelerate, this would pull the future forward, as some people like to say, expanding the H-1B program.
Side note, I looked up the H-1B program, and it's like, it's defines skilled workers and, all the legislation like kind of defines what it means, but there's a specific carve out for fashion models. The H-1B program applies to employers seeking to hire non-immigrant aliens workers in specialty occupations or as fashion models of distinguished merit and ability.
In that case, quadruple the program, quintuple the program. Get those Nigerians over here.
Christ. Okay. Anyway.
What? Was that a Freudian slip? Okay. Moving on. Speaking of slips, I hope there's going to be a lot of slips here in the near future. And the greatest wealth transfer in history is here with familiar rich winners. You like that one? Looks like
we're back, folks. We're back.
I don't even know if I nailed that for the listener, but they don't know that we're talking about if baby boomers and the silent generation die via slips, there's going to be a great wealth transfer. There's a huge New York Times article about something that all financial planners know about, which is the inheritance of wealth from baby boomers. And we talk about this a lot in the industry. We know that over the next, the baby boomers essentially born between like 46 and 70. There's about a 20-year span. The youngest ones are 60 years old now. The oldest ones are around 80. And once you take over that 80-year-old mark, then your mortality rate goes up quite a bit. So we're going to start to see the beginning of this great wealth transfer that economists have been speaking about for years. And this article has touch points on taxes as well as inequality. Apparently, baby boomers have they have half of all of the wealth in the United States. And surprise, surprise, white baby boomers and those in the top 1% have the majority of that half of the wealth. So looking really grim. It's a lot of inequality discussed here. AJ, why don't you dive in?
Yeah. I mean, this article says a lot about what we already know, but displays it in a very well thought out way with excellent charts. So if we could throw up a chart to show the actual split between the generations, it's like how much of wealth is owned by baby boomers, the silent generation, Gen X, millennials, and Zoomers. So check that out. What I find interesting, this just says more of what we already know, which is that boomers benefited from extremely low housing costs and also investing kind of at the right time, basically. Like they had jobs that could support, we had one working spouse, which could support another spouse and some kids. They could buy a house that costs a year or 2 years worth of salary. They had leftover cash to invest in the market. And then we saw, 60 years of pretty fantastic growth in that stock market. So kind of right place, right time thing, very different situation than our Gen Xers faced and that us as millennials have faced. So it's time to inherit that wealth, right? Let's take it over. Let's make sure we're in a good position to not pay taxes on it via our wonderful, generous estate tax system here. And let's take it over and buy the houses that we've not been able to afford. That's my take. Also, there's a group in here called the Patriotic Millionaires, which is a nonprofit group of Americans who want the wealthy to pay more taxes. They appear to be nonpartisan, but I need to investigate that further.
Yeah, there's a fun old rich white dude that they interview that talks about how they need to raise taxes on themselves. I'm talking about Warren Buffett. I forget the guy's name, but I think he's like worth it.
I was like Stu or something.
Yeah. Yeah, worth a couple mil. Did you know there's like 200,000 millionaires in New York City? It's kind of wild to me. Like being a millionaire nowadays isn't really that wild anymore. So going to need some kind of new metric. Yeah, some of the other fun things from the article is they interviewed somebody that runs this website called the Real-Time Inequality Tracker. Like shout out to whoever created that website. But there's not a lot of. They try to discuss some of the answers or some of the problems with around inequality. They talk about a wealth tax in this article. I think a wealth tax, as described by the French economists in the book Capital, is like the only way to really redistribute this wealth. I think one of the other cool ways that we could redistribute wealth is a guillotine. I'd be like open to that. That'd be really fun to explore. Just like starting to throw guillotines up in town squares. But hopefully we can figure something out before we get to that. They did interview somebody from JP Morgan in the private wealth space, and he did try to distract. I love his line that he gives. He's like, I don't want to talk about why the rich are rich. I want to talk about why the poor are poor. It's like, bro, do you think?
Bro, they're related.
Did you think about this? Or like, did you write that down in an email, or did they catch you off guard when you gave that quote? Like, do you work for Ron DeSantis? Like, that was a cute one, like a real distraction.
Yeah.
Didn't want to talk about a wealth tax. Didn't want to talk about NIMBYism or how the fact that appreciation on homes is largely due to the lack of housing, which would decrease the value, of other people's homes that already exist because we would increase supply, and the whole baby boomer retirement relies on not building more houses because their house values would go down and they wouldn't have enough money to support themselves. But I don't want to dive into that too much. Yeah. It does talk a little bit about the racial segregation that was happening, like the red tape that happened around Detroit over the past 30 years and how that kept those of color from building the same type of wealth that white people did. It also talks about, which I thought was very interesting, something that we actually do for our clients as well, is if you are wealthy, you can have a very low tax rate because you only experience realized gains on capital that you sell. Like if most of your wealth is made up of stocks instead of your home, then you would have to sell it. And you don't need to sell it to get the cash out of those securities. You can come up with a securities-backed line of credit. And I just thought like an easy answer to that problem is to put a tax, like an excise tax on securities-backed lines of credit. Just like make the whatever interest rate you have to pay on that securities-backed line of credit, double it. And half of that goes to the government, right? Like it's ridiculous that there's so many ways to avoid tax. It's like a tax article, really.
I agree with you. Yeah, I agree with you, except that I think with a lot of this, when we talk about wealth tax, I think we need to put a hurdle in place. Like, sure, I like your idea of taxing a securities-based line of credit, but not on portfolios under, I don't know, $20 million, right? We got to start taxing the ultra rich, because what's happening is if we start taxing the newly rich, we're just going to stifle that generational wealth that's been created, right? If we start taxing, a $5 million securities-based line of credit portfolio, like, that's a lot of our clients, right? That's a lot of our clients who have experienced a liquidity event or have sold their businesses. Let's put a higher threshold on that so we can actually tax the ultra rich where it's going to matter and not stifle another generation.
No. I don't like complication in tax. I think it leads us to where we are today. We have the most complex tax system in the world and the biggest inequalities. So we're going to talk about, they do talk a little bit about estate taxes as well. And that's a place that's very complicated because if you hire enough attorneys, you can avoid, even if you have more than the $24 million limit, like anything above 24 million is where the tax starts. If you have enough attorneys and enough time, you can exclude hundreds of millions from taxation due to complexity.
Yeah, I loved this I love this statistic here, which is individuals could inherit more than 30 trillion by 2045, right? So that's the transfer we're talking about. So we have 30 trillion, but prospective estimates of that estate tax paid would be about 4.2 trillion. So less than 15% estate tax on trillions and trillions of dollars.
Even though the estate tax is 40%, just at the federal level. So
exactly. So how does that work? How does that math work?
Right. Exactly. Well, speaking of, go on. No, wrap it up. Land the plane.
I was going to say, taking a big bite out of the estate tax, they found a 12-foot 4-inch great white shark named Ironbound, who they've been tracking for years. He was spotted off the coast of South Carolina near Hilton Head. So we are about to have a real-life Jaws this Memorial Day weekend, folks. So be careful in those waters near South Carolina.
I love how the non sequiturs make it into the podcast.
I like to keep things interesting.
I like to think that
here.
One of our listeners, if this article, they get eaten on Thursday by Ironbound here, because the podcast doesn't drop for 2.
I just saved lives.
Okay, got it. My only comment here is this is how I want to die, being eaten by a great white shark. And then I already gave you my funeral playlist, so a lot of estate planning on today's.
Is that in your will? Like, do you actually want to be, like, do you need me? I think I'm your executrix. Like, do you need me to find Ironbound, throw you in his, like, if you're, sick and dying, like, do we need to throw you in the waters as chum for him to come grab you? You know what I mean? Like, do we need to engineer this for you?
Like a healthcare proxy style? Like, oh, he's not going to make it. Time to get the sharks involved? Damn. Okay. Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
Hold on. I'll be right back. I need 5 minutes.
Okay. All right.
Can you imagine you're on the boat and the stretcher's like going up, like the water's chummed.
Or like holding hands.
And then right
like,
before I go, I'm like, wait.
So long. Speaking of Douglas Adams, so long and thanks for all the fish.
Nice. All right. Glad to have you back. Should we touch on this S&P AI article, or should we just not believe? I don't know. This is kind of spicy.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, sure. Well, the street.com reported an AI generated, it's talking about this. Apparently the S&P 500 shed $500 billion of value. They always say, they always use big numbers like that instead of a percentage for these articles because it gets clicks. I think $500 billion of value from the S&P 500 might be like 1 or 2%. I don't know. But anyway, so there was a blip in the market thanks to an AI generated image. I think it was the Pentagon getting hit. There's an explosion at the Pentagon. So
fake image, basically a fake image of terrorist attack caused market sell-off.
Yeah, essentially a boomer clicked on a PDF and a virus happened, and then it caused 1%.
I was gonna say there was a group text with Jamie Dimon that got way out of hand.
All right, let's keep it moving. We have an IPO here, according to IPO Renaissance. Kava Group has an IPO announced. I did not actually. Oh wait, I read a little bit about this. Apparently, it's a fast, casual Mediterranean restaurant. You want to hit us with some numbers?
You never been to Kava before? Yeah, Kava's great.
No.
It's like Mediterranean Chipotle. It's everywhere. It's like that perfect line of like it's kind of healthy, but it's actually delicious, and people go to it. So, but I just wanted to talk about restaurant IPOs and how they've performed. So I just took a look at like 5 of the restaurant IPOs from 2021. Not doing so well. We had Krispy Kreme, Dutch Bros Coffee, Portillo's, First Watch Restaurant Group, which is a coffee chain, and Sweet Green, which I would say Sweet Green is analogous to Kava in terms of like the type of business. Sweet Green is 80% down from its IPO price in 2021. Dutch Bros Coffee is down 22%. Krispy Kreme down 30%. If we compare that to the market, the market's down about 5% since then. So restaurant IPOs not been doing so well. So I am not, don't see Kava going too well. But it's delicious. Another thing with, I looked at their S1, and they're basically saying like, we're getting more profitable each quarter. And to me, this is like strike while the iron's hot. They are like, this is their moment to go public, and they're taking advantage of it. And I wish them the best.
Trending towards profitability is a good idea for an IPO for sure. You need,
Yep. like before the bottom drops out. And speaking of the bottom dropping out, this has been the Liquidity Event. Thank you for listening. You can email your financial problems to us at liquidityevent@brooklynfi.com. You can leave us a voicemail at memo.fm/liquidityevent. And of course, the show notes can be found at brooklynfi.com/episode 95. It's great to be back, folks. See you next week.